Help us understand what are the things that people are doing today, both things that they're eating or putting in their body, and the things that they're putting on top of their body that are prematurely aging us.
So I would always start with food. When we talk about in general aging, the way I describe it, it's like you're building a house. And when you're building a house, if you think about actual plastic surgery, and I'm a holistic plastic surgery is like the spire at the top of the house. So you don't focus there. You want to focus at the base of the house, the foundation, and that is food. So the first two things I would look at would be reducing the amount of sugar that you eat, because sugar truly is the great ager of our body, and then reducing the amount of ultra processed foods. There are different reasons why our skin ages, and especially why it ages prematurely. And the great thing is that just making simple changes in your diet can make a huge impact on how quickly your skin ages. And so starting really, if I had to start with one thing, I guess I would start with sugar.
Talk a little bit more about sugar before we talk about things that people put on their skin, and then we're going to get into what people should actually be doing to protect the skin, both from the inside and also things that we can do externally. Talk about sugar for a second. What do you mean exactly? Because for a lot of people, that can be confusing. Are we talking about fruit? Are we talking about this? Are we talking about that? What type of sugar are you talking about? And really, like, how much sugar do you see a lot of people eating that is prematurely aging them?
So when I talk about sugar, we're talking really, everything that we eat eventually gets broken down into sugar, okay? And so really when I'm talking about sugar, it's going to be the food that you eat that is high in typically refined carbs, okay? So you're getting essentially sugar spikes. Now, when you look at sugar, the sugar will actually age your skin using two different mechanisms. The first mechanism is called glycation, okay? And so sugar can actually bond to the collagen fibers in your skin and cause the collagen to denature and to actually get older. Now, our skin is composed about 70 to 80% of collagen, and that is a part of our skin that causes our skin to feel tight, to feel strong, to look youthful. And as we get older, we lose about 1% of the thickness of our collagen every year, starting about in our mid-20s. Now, in women who go through menopause, that increases to 2% a year. And so when you look at women, especially, as they get in their 70s and 80s, some of them, their skin gets so tissue paper thin that it could actually tear just from getting scratched. And so one of the things we want to do is really focus once again on the collagen being such a huge component of the skin. And the way I describe collagen, they're like the logs of a log cabin. And when you're young, those logs are nice and strong and they're tight and they're new. As we get older, those logs start to fall apart. They start to denature. They start to become not as stable. And what sugar does is sugar can come along and it can actually bond then to the collagen fibers, causing those collagen that has already become a bit kinked and starting to fall apart to become even more kinked and to basically prematurely age it. So that's one of the reasons why as we get older, our skin gets rougher, it gets looser, it gets thinner, and if you add sugar into the mix, that can make things worse. And these sugar collagen hybrids, essentially, those combination, are called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. It's kind of appropriately titled AGEs because they basically will age your skin. So that's one way that sugar will age our skin. And a lot of people will then look, okay, then does it matter the types of sugar that you eat? And yes, it does, because on top of that, sugar will age your skin by the process of chronic inflammation. Now, inflammation in general is not always a bad thing. And we have seen lately in the last 5 years where a lot of holistic kind of minded and forward-minding physicians and health professionals and biohackers are using acute inflammation as a way to potentially enhance their longevity. In medicine, we look at acute inflammation as being a good thing. If you get a cut on your skin, your body creates acute inflammation around that injury to help heal it faster. When we do laser treatments on our faces or on parts of our body, we're creating acute inflammation, and that can actually enhance or cause that collagen to become tighter and actually more youthful afterwards. But it's the chronic inflammation that can be an issue. And this is something that you've covered in your podcasts and with the information you put out there so well. But when we get chronic spikes of sugar, we get chronic spikes of insulin. Chronic insulin spikes can eventually lead to insulin resistance. And a lot of people look at insulin resistance and they look at sugar and they think about it from more of a metabolic perspective of gaining weight, of energy issues. but you can actually look at it as aging your skin as well. Okay, because chronic inflammation can age the skin. There are even studies that show that when you have high levels of insulin, especially these spikes, you can get more acne and inflammatory skin disorders.
Wow. Do you ever have a patient come into your office and then you can immediately look at their skin and feel, wow, I think this person's eating too much refined sugar, refined carbohydrates in their diet?
We see it all the time. Yeah. I mean, I get people come in. So, I mean, I still have a full time plastic surgery practice. I get patients come in and I can tell literally in about 10 seconds of sitting down with them if they're a smoker. If they, have a reasonably healthy diet. Now, obviously, I can't tell. There's only so much you can tell just by looking. But you can really tell. You can see if people are inflamed. Your listeners may have friends of theirs, and we see it a lot in men and women where their face is just real red. It's ruddy in texture. There's a difference between a healthy pink color to the skin, which shows good vascularity, and somebody who's inflamed. And you can see oftentimes inflammatory patches, eczema, acne breakouts, and then this kind of red patches over their skin. And that's typically a sign of somebody with really just honestly bad lifestyle, especially a bad diet.
So we're really talking about pharmacological levels of sugar that a lot of people are eating. And those would be coming from refined, carbohydrates is one, like
Yeah.
too many of those inside of the diet,
Yeah.
right? But really in America, primarily that's going to be coming from people doing like a lot of soft drinks and sugar sweetened
Yes.
beverages.
And there was a study I saw that showed that in the standard American diet, 20% of the calories in the standard American diet comes from sugar sweetened drinks. 20%. And when you think about that, that's like 1 out of every 5 calories that the standard American diet that Americans essentially eat have absolutely no nutritional value to them. We're talking energy drinks, we're talking soft drinks, we're talking fruit juices. For me, it's interesting, like yourself, I grew up with Asian parents who, I was given a traditional Korean diet growing up, but I grew up in the middle of Michigan. And so where I grew up in a tiny town in the middle of Michigan, what did my friends eat? It was all meat and potatoes. And so I had this kind of weird dichotomy of I would go home and eat with my parents and we would eat these healthy foods. It would be, rice and fish and kimchi and garlic. And then I would go out with my friends and it would be Big Macs and French fries and Taco Bell. And it's this weird dichotomy. And when you really look at it, there's such a huge difference when you look at the quality of the food. One set of food you look at and you know where that food came from. The other set of food you look at and you don't even know where that came from, like what type of fruit or vegetable created this food and what type of chemicals were put into it to make it taste that way. It's a very interesting thing. When I go back and I think about my childhood, it's like, wow. And I never realized it at that time, that, geez, this is like one diet was keeping me alive and the other diet was slowly killing me.
Mm. Are there things that people are putting on their skin that we might want to tell people to pause or stop? Just like you were talking about, things that prematurely age our skin that we're eating. Is there anything that you see on a regular basis? We just did an entire episode with a toxicologist who came on and talked about the concerns around a lot of the toxins that are in our cosmetics and the supplies that we're using. So are there things that you worry about as a holistic sort of plastic surgeon that you see people putting on their skin that prematurely ages them?
It's interesting. I went through all of traditional medical training. So I did 4 years of medical school. I got an MD, and then I did 3 years as a general surgeon where I worked in surgical ICUs. I worked in trauma centers. And then I did 2 years of plastic and reconstructive surgery. And then I did a year of a cosmetic fellowship out in Beverly Hills here. And interestingly enough, throughout that entire time, I had almost zero education in nutrition and even skincare, believe it or not, because there was actually in my area where I trained, dermatologists and plastic surgeons did not get along. It was a turf war between them for people, for like patients who want Botox and fillers and stuff like that. So even though I was in this plastic surgery residency program, we would never spend any time with dermatologists to learn skin health because dermatologists didn't want to give us their secrets, and plastic surgeons the same thing. So I ended up, starting up my practice, a cosmetic practice in Michigan. And like most plastic surgeons, I sold skincare products and I sold the medical grade products that they reached out to us that other practices sold. And for many, many years, I had this secret that I never let my patients know. is that all of these products I was selling to them, these medical grade products that I touted, I could not use them myself.
Hmm.
Because if I put them on my skin would break out in hives. I would get rashes. I would get itchy. I would get red and irritated. And so for years, I used water, I used bar soap, and I used basically the most basic cleanser you could think of, all the while selling these products to my patients with, these medically active ingredients. And it didn't come down to, and it really came down to a point in my practice where a bad event essentially opened my eyes to the fact that what I was doing was not right. And I started looking into holistic medicine, and I started actually using skincare products from natural companies that did not add parabens to their products, which are considered potential hormone disruptors. They didn't put fragrance in their products, which could potentially cause skin irritation. Formaldehyde releasers they kept out as well. And I started using these other products, and I go, wow, I could put this on my skin and my skin feels great afterwards. I didn't know that was even possible. And so that got me looking down really a rabbit hole of skincare, and the fact that, when you look at the ingredients of so many skincare products that are sold in department stores and even in doctors' offices, they're filled with, once again, fragrances that can cause irritation to the skin, fragrances that really, they don't even have to tell you what's in that fragrance. Basically, they could just put artificial fragrance, and that could be basically a trade secret, and you don't know what's in there. As well as parabens, as well as phthalates, and all these other types of potentially harmful ingredients. When you look in the United States, the FDA has banned literally 11 ingredients from skincare products. When you look in the EU, it's hundreds.
In Europe.
Yeah, in Europe, it's hundreds that they've banned. It's a very, very big difference.
Wow. So the concern would be, besides these things prematurely aging our skin, the potential for them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out is that as I started going down this rabbit hole myself, a lot of companies themselves don't actually know what's in them, because they'll order these fragrances or these proprietary blends from third-party companies. And for that company, they don't want to reveal what's inside of it.
No.
So sometimes you'll ask a company, hey, what's in this fragrance? And they actually don't know what's inside of it, because they don't have the information. They order it from somebody else.
Yeah, it just says fragrance.
So besides these things potentially being irritating to the skin, prematurely aging the skin, they're actually not good for your body. They're going to cause all sorts of downstream issues, which is why there's this entire movement of people moving towards clean beauty and cleaner ingredients. YouTube, if you enjoyed what you just saw, keep watching for more great content on how to improve your brain and your life.
There was actually a study that looked at fruits and vegetables in the United States, and they found a statistically significant reduction in at least 6 different key nutrients in our produce from 1950 to 1999.